because he don't want to die before. He wants to see those things by himself. He wants to see them come to pass while he's still living. Says 2030 is too far. So they're working hard to make the world turn out like this. This is really crazy. Now, let me give you a quote from their document here. A shrinking class of taxpayers demands protection. This is what they're looking at. See, they're looking at it in future. So they say, a shrinking class of taxpayers demands protection and accepts a more authoritarian rule as the price of keeping order. They envisage this. See it? Because they've dispossessed a lot of people. There's so much poverty. So fewer people are able to pay taxes because fewer people have good paying jobs. And since they have fewer people, these people now need protection from the hostile gangs that are coming back to haunt them. See it? Now, they're using this term for, they're talking about the refugee camps. But it's not refugee camps like those outside by the UN. They are really looking at these people in their poor streets, in the cities, in the inner cities. They're looking at all these people within their countries who have been impoverished as living in refugee camps because they've been dispossessed and those homes no longer belong to them.
Yes, sir.
Those homes now belong to big government. So the shrinking taxpayers demand protection. And because they want protection from these hostile people, hostile poor, which they made poor, they are ready to accept a more authoritarian rule as the price for order. Interesting. Outside, the gang seize territory and govern much like states had in the past. So the gangs are setting up their own territories. All right? So they go on to say, for actual states, domestic threats have become so intense that they have little capacity to engage in collective security action through national or regional organizations which gradually wither away. Responsibility for governance and service provision of all kinds moves away from the national governments towards the city-states, which manage to connect to each other and thrive as an, well, let me take you to the next part. Interesting. Creation of regional governance. Here is another part. So, these regional governance institutions will subjugate sovereign states and take over companies. What are they telling you? Watch organizations like ECOWAS, ASEAN, that is the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, SADC for the South African nations. Interesting. Such institutions are expected to fragment the Bretton Woods institutions, which will have lost the trust of the populations in global trade and finance, setting up new regulations. So they're going to try to work through these regional groups. See it? Because people are more and more suspicious of the Bretton Woods institutions as the IMF and World Bank and their associate organizations. So they go, companies lose their independence as interregional trade is limited and they come increasingly under informal control of the new regional governance institutions. As global trade falls, major economies stagnate. A growing sense of lawlessness and frustration results. What are they doing with this? I'll tell you. I told you some time ago, I read scripture to you. The plan to make the world a place of absolute restlessness until the world is ready for a one world government by force.